A couple of simple things that you can make part of your vocabulary that are powerful when it comes to actually playing melodies is things like dynamics, like I showed before, or space. See the staccato? You know, or if you're muting and there's a lot of dynamics in that. And then phrasing is the actual heart of the melody. You know, phrasing is, for instance, if you're just doing scales up and down, there's not much phrasing in it. But the way you turn notes, the way you end a phrase, the way you may vibrate in between. So like if I went, there's a lot of phrasing in that, because just doing that, you know, that little harmonic and the vibrato and then the whipping kind of, I don't know what I did, but it was like, see the space? Now that's idiosyncratic to me, sure. You know? These things are actually creating shapes of dynamics, articulation. Articulation is the staccato, the legato, the vibrato. All these things create the phrasing. I mean, if I was to just there's not a lot of phrasing in that, you know, but I mean, just something like that. It's a whole different little vocabulary. So you look for things like that in your playing, and then you exaggerate them. Right. And that's how your own unique voice starts to arise in everything you play. So what we've kind of just discussed so far is just actual playing and phrasing, right. But and you can go on and on with all the different things you can add to playing and techniques to, you know, there's hammering, there's tapping, there's all this stuff. Right. We're not going to get so into that, but this is basically basics. Right. But it's also good to know a couple of the basics, like the names of all the strings and all of the notes. Right. Now, you'd be surprised how helpful that can be and how many people actually don't know these things. They're very simple. And so we'll move into chords now. Okay. Okay, so first, go out and memorize every open chord there is. There's books and books if you want. You go on the internet, you can learn every chord. So learn every chord. Open chords are your, open chords are just your, in the first position basically, like, that's an open. So practicing chords, first just get a book and learn all the simple open chords. Maybe not first, maybe you want to learn the bar chords. Major, minor, seven, all the basics. Just understand the name of them, right. And that's fine. And make sure when you play them, you hear every note. I mean, it takes practice, right. To get every note. And when you switch chords, that it sounds good and in tune. Playing chords in tune. It's hard to play a C chord in tune. I don't hear many people do it well, Or a D. And the guitar is a pickled instrument, so a lot of times the chords aren't in tune, even if the guitar is in tune. Yeah, when you're practicing chords, you got to be careful. First, your guitar has to be intonated. Yeah. Right. You should give a whole lesson about tuning and intonation. Right. Yeah. But if you're going to play this chord here, then you should play it up here. And it needs to be in tune. pretty much in tune. So learning chords, just at face value, you get a book and you just learn the basic chords, but that's not really how you learn a chord. It's not the most effective way. The most effective way to learn a chord is by listening, and I'll kind of explain. There's two dimensions, and I'll just use a D chord, and I've given this example many times. I could fill your mind with a lot of information about this chord. First, it's a D chord. It's in the second position. It contains the first and the third and the fifth scale degrees. That's more information, you know. What does that mean? Major scale, so it's formed from the major scale. It has the first, the third, and the fifth. And that's what makes a major chord, more information. I could show you how to write it out on manuscript form. I can show you all the different inversions of it. And that's all fine, but that's not a D chord. You know, that's like saying, you know, your name is Andy, but it's not really who you are. Right. It's just words that come out of somebody's mouth to try to describe something that's completely incomprehensible to the human mind. So the same thing applies to chords. The best thing to do is to know chords by listening really intensely, because all that information is a D chord, but really a D chord is... And the way you do this, it's more valuable than knowing anything about the chord, is listen really intensely. Put your attention intensely, without any mental distractions, on listening. So you go into that zone of listening really intensely. And that's a D chord. So you own the chord by creating a relationship with it, and you do that with every chord. This is how you develop as a musician and not just a technician. You apply your attention deeply. So if I was to tell you this chord is a B flat major 7, 6, 9, sharp 11 chord, because I can fill you up with all sorts of information, but this is the chord. There's a personality to it. The chord has a personality, and you don't get to know it unless you listen really deeply. It has a story to tell. You own the chord, you become the chord. You become it. Because if your attention is intensely on it, it permeates your whole body. Feels really good too. And you can do that with any chord. I mean, you can go on and on. Okay, so there's two chord libraries you can have. One is the kind that's written out and has all the information and all the knowledge. The other is the mental chord library that once you create a relationship with the chord, you can call on it at any time, and it will instinctually, the right chord for what you're hearing in a melody will instinctually come up, and you'll just know it. Now, it may be that this is a minor major 7 chord, and you may not go to that chord, but there's an atmosphere to it that at another time when you're writing a song, okay, I know, you don't even have to say, I need a minor major 7 chord. You just want that.
Sure.
And this is the best way to be creative, because now you're touching your inner ear, right, as opposed to your theoretical brain.